Have you ever sat at a table full of people and still felt completely invisible? You smile, you nod, you listen, but deep down, something aches. Not from loneliness, but from the weight of pretending. At 70 years old, I no longer force myself into spaces where my soul feels unwelcome. I no longer explain, impress, or chase approval. And maybe that's what peace actually looks like. You see, the world doesn't tell you this, but aging gives you a gift no one can steal: clarity. In this quiet chapter of life, I've discovered that solitude isn't the absence of connection. It's the presence of something deeper: myself. This video is not about bitterness. It's about boundaries, not about isolation, but inner strength. And if you've ever wondered why so many elders slowly step away from the crowd, I'll show you the 7 healing reasons behind that choice, and why it may be the best thing we've ever done. A recent study found that more than 40% of people over 65 live alone, and many report higher emotional satisfaction than those in constant company. If you've felt this shift, you are not strange. You are awakening. And I promise, by the end of this video, you will feel less alone in your choices and more powerful in your silence. I would appreciate it if you like this video. It helps me continue sharing these healing truths about growing older with strength, peace, and positive energy. Now let us begin. There comes a certain season after 70 when noise no longer excites and presence no longer needs to be proven. You begin to realize that your time, your attention, and your peace are sacred. And the first quiet decision many of us make is to gently walk away from what drains us, not in anger, but in reverence for the life we still have left. Reason number 1. Time feels precious now. I refuse to waste it on shallow talks. There is something deeply different about time once you cross into your 70s. When we were younger, hours were like river water, flowing, endless, taken for granted. But now, time is more like a well. Every drop counts. Every conversation, every gathering, every voice in the room. It either nourishes you or empties you. Science shows that after age 65, the brain becomes more selective with emotional energy, prioritizing depth and familiarity over novelty or performance. And that's not a flaw, that's wisdom at work. I remember one afternoon sitting at a birthday lunch, surrounded by people I had known for years. Everyone was smiling, joking, passing dishes. But my mind drifted. My body was there. My heart wasn't. Not because I disliked them, but because I longed for a different kind of connection, the kind you don't have to perform for. So now I politely decline more invitations. Not to be rude, but to be honest. I no longer have the appetite for surface-level chatter. If the soul is not spoken to, I excuse myself. Not out of arrogance, but because I now see time as a sacred currency, and I've overspent too much of it already. My personal opinion? This change doesn't make you antisocial. It makes you aware. It means you finally realize that the most expensive thing you can give anyone is your full attention. And it should be spent wisely. Sometimes, walking away from noise is the most loving thing you can do for your soul. And as you begin to protect your time, something else becomes clear. It is not just the hours you're guarding. It's your energy, your heart, your peace. You start noticing which people leave you feeling empty after a visit, and which ones still light something gentle inside. And that realization leads many of us to the next truth. Reason number 2, I've outgrown many people. And that's okay. Aging doesn't just change your body, it changes your alignment. What once made you laugh now makes you tired. What once felt exciting now feels noisy. And sometimes, the people who used to feel like home no longer do. This can be one of the most confusing parts of growing older, realizing that some friendships, some family bonds, some lifelong connections have quietly expired. Not in anger, not in betrayal, but in rhythm. Just like seasons shift. Research in emotional development reveals that by age 70, most people become more values-driven in relationships, seeking meaning, support, and sincerity over history or habit. I had a dear friend named Paul. We played golf for 20 years, watched our kids grow, laughed over coffee every Sunday. But somewhere in our 70s, we changed. Or maybe we revealed who we really were. His conversations turned bitter. Mine turned quiet. His world stayed wide. Mine grew inward. One day, without any drama, we simply stopped calling. And at first, I felt guilt. But then I felt relief. Not because I stopped loving him, but because I started choosing myself. Here is my personal belief. Outgrowing someone does not mean you failed them. It means you honored your growth, and you allowed theirs. You're not pulling away. You're making space for who you're becoming. This isn't rejection. This is release. And release is a form of respect. There's a kind of healing that doesn't come from therapy, advice, or even prayer circles. It comes from stillness, from silence, from choosing to be alone long enough to hear the whisper of your own soul again. And that is where many elders, perhaps without even realizing it, begin to discover a deeper kind of restoration. Reason number 3. I've learned that solitude can heal what people once wounded. It took me many years to understand this. Not everyone who hurt me meant to, but not everyone who loved me knew how to. The scars we carry into our 70s are often not visible. They're hidden in the way we flinch at certain tones, how we shut down in conflict, how we still carry someone else's disappointment in our chest like it's ours. And when you're surrounded by people constantly talking, advising, even caring, there's not enough room to hear what your own heart is asking for. Neuroscientists have shown that intentional solitude reduces cortisol, the stress hormone, and increases emotional regulation in older adults. Put simply, being alone can make your nervous system feel safe again. I remember a man named Raymond, a veteran who lived alone in a small house just outside of town. People used to say he was grumpy, withdrawn, but I visited him once during the fall. His garden was quiet, neat, filled with bonsai trees. He said something I'll never forget. Out here, no one yells, no one forgets me. The silence knows my name. That kind of healing, the kind that comes from being unseen, untouched, undemanded, is rare and sacred. In my opinion, solitude is not a punishment. It is a balm. It allows old wounds to breathe, and maybe even close. Sometimes the medicine isn't found in another's arms, but in your own quiet breath, beneath the trees, where no one is watching. At some point in life, the pressure to be understood begins to melt away. You no longer need everyone to get you, to agree with you, or even to like you. What you crave now is peace, not permission. And this gentle shift leads to one of the most liberating truths of aging. Reason number 4, I no longer need to explain myself to be accepted. When you are younger, you spend years trying to fit into rooms, conversations, expectations that were never truly made for you. You adjust your tone, hide your pain, laugh at jokes that don't land in your heart, all because you believe that being accepted requires performance. But when you reach your 70s, something sacred changes. You realize that self-worth doesn't ask for applause. It simply rests. Studies in developmental psychology show that older adults increasingly rely on internal validation, meaning their sense of self is less tied to others' opinions and more grounded in lived truth. I met a woman named Clara, 82 years old, who used to volunteer in every community club. Bake sales, church bulletins, town halls, everyone loved her. But she told me that after her 80th birthday, she stopped. I don't owe everyone my time, she said, smiling. I only owe myself my peace. She now spends her mornings writing poetry, sipping coffee in silence, and reading books she never had time for. Some of her old friends say she's changed, but I believe she's finally come home to herself. My personal thought? When you no longer need to explain your heart to be heard, you're not isolated, you're free. Silence, when chosen, is not the absence of connection. It's the beginning of authenticity. The older I get, the more I notice something strange. Everyone is talking, but fewer are truly connecting. The words come faster, the screens grow brighter, but the warmth, the real human warmth, feels like it's fading. And that's when I began to understand the next reason I choose a quieter life. Reason number 5, technology feeds loneliness, not connection. It may seem ironic, but in this age of constant connection, many elders feel more isolated than ever. Text messages replace visits, emojis stand in for hugs. Social media shows smiling faces, but not a single real conversation. As elders, we don't want to scroll through life. We want to sit across from someone, share coffee, feel their voice, their eyes, their presence. Recent studies show that adults over 70 who rely primarily on digital communication report significantly lower emotional well-being than those with regular in-person interactions. I remember Margaret, a widowed woman in her late 70s, who stopped using her tablet entirely. "It made me feel invisible," she said. "I'd send a message, get a heart emoji back, and sit there for hours, still alone." So she started writing letters again, real ones, with her favorite blue ink. Her grandchildren now have a box filled with her thoughts, her memories, her soul on paper. That's something no screen will ever replace. From my perspective, this isn't resistance to modern life. It's a return to depth. A refusal to let machines replace meaning. A screen can light up a room, but only presence can warm the heart. There is a quiet truth we do not often say aloud. As we grow older, we become gentler, yes, but also more guarded. Not bitter, not afraid, just wiser. The heart, once open to all, now opens slowly, carefully. And that's because the next reason speaks to something we've earned with age. Reason number 6, I trust less now. Not out of fear, but experience. When you've lived 7 decades or more, you've seen enough to know. Not everyone who smiles is kind. Not everyone who listens is safe. And not every invitation deserves a yes. Trust at this stage is no longer casual. It is deliberate. Like an old gate, it creaks open only when the path feels right. Research in geriatric psychology shows that after 70, adults naturally become more selective in their social interactions, prioritizing depth and emotional safety over breadth or excitement. It is not a flaw, it is self-preservation. I once knew a man named Walter, 84 years old, who had been through 2 divorces, lost a brother to betrayal, and survived years of false friendships. When I asked him how he keeps going, he said this: "I don't lock my heart, son. I just don't leave the door wide open anymore." He still loved deeply, but with discernment. No more rescuing others. No more ignoring red flags. No more confusing kindness with obligation. Personally, I believe trust after 70 is not less. It's just earned. Slowly. Honestly. Through presence, not performance. And sometimes, the safest hands to place your heart in are your own. And once you've shed the need for constant trust, for approval, for performance, you arrive at a softer place, a place where silence doesn't frighten you, a place where your own company is not a punishment, but a gift. And it is here that the final truth unfolds. Not loudly, but gently, like a leaf floating down in autumn. Reason number 7, being alone doesn't mean being lonely. It means being with myself. One of the greatest misunderstandings about older adults is the belief that being alone must mean something's wrong. That if no one is around us, we must be sad, neglected, or forgotten. But the truth is, many of us have chosen this peace, We have chosen stillness, and it has changed everything. Researchers have found that purposeful solitude in older adults is strongly linked to improved memory, emotional stability, and even reduced risk of dementia. That is not loneliness. That is renewal. I think of Harold, 91 years old, who wakes each morning before the sun, makes tea, and sits beside the same window facing the woods. He speaks to no one for hours. And yet, he says it's the richest time of his day. I've learned, he told me once, that the quieter life gets, the louder my spirit speaks. He now paints, journals, and tends his small garden. And no, he is not lonely. He is full, in a way that constant company never could offer. In my view, this is the true reward of age, to no longer run from yourself, but to sit beside your own soul and smile. Aloneness is not emptiness. It is the presence of someone you've finally come to love. You. Now, before we close, let me leave you with something gentle, a reflection from all we've shared so far. So if you've ever sat alone and wondered, am I disappearing from the world? I want to tell you gently, no, my friend. You are not disappearing. You are reappearing. You are peeling back the noise, the demands, the masks, and returning to the quiet truth of who you've always been. Each of these 7 reasons is not a sign of withdrawal. They are signs of awakening. You no longer need to explain, impress, or entertain. You've earned the right to choose stillness. You've earned the right to choose you. And if you felt this shift in your own life, the pull toward simplicity, the desire to guard your peace, the comfort in solitude, then please know, you are not broken, distant, or alone. You are simply wise. You are simply ready. And you are not the only one. I want to thank you for being here with me today. If any of these words spoke to something deep inside you, I invite you to share just one thing in the comments. Maybe a moment of peace, or a reason you've chosen a quieter life, or just write number 1. And if you haven't already, I hope you'll subscribe for more healing truths and positive energy, because aging should never mean silence, shame, or surrender. See you in the next video.